Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the NRW. I am Rob Medina, and I want to thank you all very much for checking out this very special NRW interview that I have here for you guys, because today I'm going to be speaking with the writer, director of the film in the channel, with Will Kaufman. Now, for anyone who's followed me on social media and also checked out the reviews I've done here on this channel, you'll know that I'm a big, massive fan of Will Kaufman. I think he's one of the absolute best when it comes to the action genre, especially when it comes to the shootout sequences. Those are the things that I think he's one of the absolute best to ever do it. I've done a review for his films called Daylight Sin, Sinners and Saints, and also The Brave, which are those three films that I think are one of his absolute best. But the film that we're here promoting here is for the movie called The Channel, which is going to be out this week on July 14th. And as a fan of Will Kaufman, I can truthfully say that I believe this is his best film. There's so much about this movie that I really enjoyed, that I really think that you guys will enjoy as well too, especially if you're fans of the action genre, especially with those shootout type films. Although this isn't like your gun kata type movies where you see in the John Wick films. It's nothing of that sort at all. I mean, this is pretty much like a straightforward, just grounded reality type of shootout sequences, a little amplified of course, but just a fun movie with great characters and a great story that you can get behind here. And when I had the opportunity to talk with Will about this movie, there's a lot of wonderful insight that he was able to share here. I wish we had more time, but you know what? I was just happy to have a conversation with him about the film, because there was a lot of wonderful insight that he did share here with me that I think you all will enjoy, which I hope will encourage you all to check out the film. Now, before we get into the conversation here, let's first roll the trailer for The Channel, and then we'll get talking to Will Kaufman.
Let's rock and roll. Give me the key. Just relax. Heads down, eyes down. This ain't worth dying for.
3 shooters, all ex-military. Not just military. These guys are gunfighters. The Irish Channel to get lost in right there.
FBI robbery task force?
How'd they know?
Let's go get our money. You're a little light, don't you think?
We ain't had no choice.
Tell me more about these brothers.
The younger one was the smart one.
Everybody just calm down.
The older one was the mean one.
So I apologize.
You're not gonna be happy till we're all dead. You've always wanted that warrior's death.
I ain't afraid to die, bro.
I ain't leaving you here with this psychopath.
Ooh, wait! This how you get a party started.
We're never gonna see each other again.
You ain't thinking straight.
I've never been more clear in my whole life.
Did I tell you you were gonna wish you killed me first?
So I've been a fan of you for a number of years now, ever since to make a long story short, I'm sure you've heard the story before, but I came across Lewis, who you've worked with on a number of occasions. And then with me being introduced to him through Debt Collectors, and then from there having to look into his work, I came across your films as well too. So
Louis Mandel,
yes. So once I had seen the film The Brave, that was the film that made me a fan of you.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
So thank you, because it was a fun movie. And
Louis is amazing, right?
Yeah, he was great in the movie too.
Yeah.
So the one thing I just wanted to run by with you real quick about the introduction with you is that because I actually became aware of you almost, I had forgotten about the whole thing here, was when I had seen Jarhead 3, The Siege. And I saw that movie at that time because of Scott Adkins.
Okay.
But I hadn't seen it in such a long time. And then from there, once I started doing more research on you, I've came across some films that I was interested in checking out, The Marine 4, and of course, Jarhead 3, revisiting that film, and then the various other films I've come across as well too. The one thing has always remained consistent through all of your films I've come across is the shootout sequences, which is one of the bigger things. I'm a major fan of your work when it comes to that sort of stuff, but also the stories as well too.
Right.
So with the release of The Channel, having heard through, I've heard Todd Jenkins, who you worked with before as well, tell me in conversation we had in private that he had told me that Will thinks this is going to be his best film. I was like, if Will thinks that, then I'm confident in getting a good film out of The Channel. So when I saw the movie, I had messaged you after the fact and I said, I love what you had done. And I mean that with every fiber of my body.
Thank you.
Because there's so much that obviously I'm not going to get into it to spoil here for you, but One of the reasons why I love the film so much is because it's a weird thing. I guess the best way I could describe it is that it's more or less kind of like the last job that's done at the very beginning of the film, and it's the consequences that occur after the fact that
100%.
they have to pick up the pieces. That's the part that I appreciated the most.
Right.
The second thing I also appreciated as well too was due to the fact that we have our leads where you get the impression of who they are in the beginning of the story, but then as the story progresses along the way, you get to really know who they really are as individuals under the worst circumstances, if you will, where
Right.
the true character comes out. That's the other part that I appreciate about the film as well too. And of course, the way the film ended too, without spoiling for anybody, but I just love the way that once we get to that part, it's a very well-earned ending for everyone involved with the story. So I know that you had written the film, and from what I came across in IMDb, I think you also had some help too in the story side of it as well too. So I'm not sure how much of time you had developed to write the story out, but it sounds like to me that this was something that was kind of like you were waiting for the right moment for you to be able to tell the story at this particular scale here. Because what I saw from the beginning of the film, to me, this looks like to be one of the biggest films you've worked on here, and it does show in the film too. But at the same time, still having a lot more of a personal touch to it as well too, that I also did appreciate with that story. So I'm hoping that you can give me some insight about what it is that you had, where it all more or less started from, and then where you felt like you had felt the most confident knowing that I can pull it off now at the direction that I want to take moving forward from here.
Well, I feel like this film is the truest expression of me as a filmmaker.
Right.
Of what I wanted to do, what I like to do. My story partner and I, Paul Rochelle, that was what made the difference, because he is such a true believer as a producer himself, that he got behind me and my entire producing team, having people that really want to make a great movie as opposed to a poster and a trailer.
Right.
That's a very different thing.
Right.
And so everything happened very fast. Paul came to me with the overall idea. We kicked things back and forth, and then I spent most, I would say, a good portion of the time developing the beat sheet, the outline,
right,
and then dug into the script, and then from the green light to production, beginning was about a 4-month time period. So it happened very fast. I've never had anything like that happen before. So this is a genre that I love, and
right,
to get to do something that is, quote, a real film noir piece, that yes, of course I can show off what I call the guilty pleasures of the action, but really delve into these actors and their performances and stories.
I wanted to bring up both Max and Clay, because I think because I'm familiar with them, but I wasn't too familiar with them as far as the works were concerned. I mean, I've seen 13 Hours with, and I know Max was in it, which I thought he was great in as well too. But the one thing about this movie, which I think, because I'm not familiar with them, I don't have any preconceived notion about what they've done before and how I have to get familiar with their work. But when it came to the casting of the actors here, I'm not sure if you had any particular actors in mind that you had were looking out for, or if it's a situation where we'll open up the gates for everyone who can come in, and we'll hire the best actor for the part. But again, I'm not sure how that whole process worked out for you, if you already had an actor set in mind, or if you're looking to give the opportunity for whoever can come in to take up the part.
No, I mean, my producing team basically said, go get who you think is creatively the best for the film.
Right.
And that's the first time I've had that opportunity, where it was 100% my decision. And so I actually went out to Max for the part of the FBI agent and Clay for the part of the older brother. And then they got wind of it, and they both came to me and said, what if we played the brothers? And with zero convincing needed, I said 100%, I love that. Huh. And we adapted, and I can't imagine it another way now.
Yeah, same here. It's funny thing. New Orleans is a place that I've never been to, but I've met a lot of people from there. And the one thing that I picked up, and I wouldn't say in the last 10 plus years, is that I remember when I first had heard the characters talk in the trailer, I picked up on their accent. which is an accent that I think a lot of people who are not from the area may not be familiar with at all, which is the Yet accent, I think is what it was referred to in the movie.
Yeah.
I wonder if I was curious about that because, you know, I understand, you know, there's variations of accents in New Orleans here, but I wasn't sure if there was something that you were considering about. Was that an important factor for it? Because if they're from New Orleans, you know, do you have to have a distinct accent because you're from this area, or if it's one of the situations where which accent you guys think you can pull off the best here, and we'll go with that.
Yeah, I specifically, I've been coming here forever,
right?
And I live here now. And I remember I heard this girl, a front desk person at a hotel, and she had this really thick. It sounded like kind of a slowed down. I call it the Bronx on Quaaludes, you know, this kind of slowed down New York accent. And I was like, she was arguing with some people from New York, and they were saying, "What part of Brooklyn are you from?" And she goes, "No, I've never been out of New Orleans." And so it was a unique thing to find out that this accent existed. And a lot of the blue collar community, you'll hear that accent. We as a country know a real New Orleans accent is really what we think of as the Garden District accent. That's Harry Connick Jr., right?
Yeah.
That's a New Orleans accent as well. But the ad accent was, and it makes sense that it would be similar to Brooklyn because it's the same. It's the Irish, the Germans, Sicilians, all came together and at the same time in both places. And that's just how this accent evolved. And it's not as prevalent now. You'll definitely hear it. You'll hear an Uber driver or I hear it all the time in my neighborhood. I live in the Irish Channel.
Okay.
But I think, there'll be some people like, what is that? Where's that coming from? But that's the real deal.
So when you were, you know, getting everything together here, during the shoot though, did you ever feel like, because, you know, when you talked about how you felt like this is your best work, I'm not sure if you got that feeling after the fact, or if you were in the production, you realize that this is going to turn out really, really good. And from there on, I know whatever we do next is just going to be, you know, it's going to be just, not to say smooth sailing, but I guess the best way to describe it is that it's going to turn out well, despite the hardships, but it's going to turn out good because things are looking really well by the way things are working out here so far.
Yeah. I mean, it was incredibly challenging.
Right.
But I also just had it in my heart and gut that we were doing it, and as a team it was all coming together. And then once I got into the editorial, I was just grinning ear to ear. I was super happy with it. It's the kind of thing I've wanted to do forever.
When you started to put the pieces together for the film, and obviously you mentioned just now you were happy with it, but I'm wondering if at any point when you started really putting everything finalized here and you're getting opinions from other people, was the general consensus for everybody else more or less the same thing? Like, hey, you know what, this actually looks really, really good. But I would change X, Y, and Z. Anything like that would come across?
No, two of my producers, who were also with me on the director's edit cut, Isaac and Andrew Lewis, they were kind of my, outside of my editor, Travis Medina, they were my creative voices I listened to.
Okay.
And so we all were very much on the same page that, we'll challenge each other. It's like if let's say one of them didn't like this or that, I'd look at it and go, no, this is right. But then I'd have to tell myself, he's a really smart guy. Why does he think that? And so that's what I think, collaborating with guys that you all really respect each other, that's collaboration, right? So I think that was what made it, being able to put ego is, I think, a soul crusher and a creative crusher. And I think being able to not have that in the way was something that really helped us be able to be objective. I do say that once the cut was done, the director's cut was done, we had nothing but support from the rest of the team and the distributors when we started sharing it.
Do you think, though, that with this particular film, once it gets out there, do you have any any anticipation just based upon your experiences from, everyone's reaction to the movie so far, my reaction, for example, and everyone else who had seen the film, the various cuts of it, and then getting the final cut. If the general consensus with everybody is this is really, really good, are you anticipating for more or less people who are fans of yourself, fans of the genre, that will come and check out the film, that you think they're going to react more or less the same way? Or are you just more in a situation where I'm taking it day by day, and once it's out there, I have no control of the matter, which it was obvious, but I'm wondering if you have a anticipation or expectations about what you expect people to come up to get with this movie.
That is the truth, that eventually you have to let your baby walk and run and move out of the house. And I think we've done, I'm really, really proud of what the team and I have put together. Yeah. And I hope people love it as much as we do. But this is what we do, where we say, hey, you guys decide. Right. And I will say I'm not hesitant or anxiety ridden at all to share this with the world. If it's not for them, then I doubt anything I would do would be for them. I think that it's good, solid work. So I think we'll entertain the hell out of people. So yeah, I'm in a very positive frame of mind on it.
So here's something I wanted to ask you to kind of get a perspective on you now, because there's, I've been in the last few years, I said before, I became a fan of your work, and I have been very interested to learn more about the journeys you've gone through, and at the same time, see the various films you've worked on as well too, that have, I can see it, for example, like Sinners and Saints, an example, like I can see that the very early stages of your career, but then when you move on to the next film, like Daylight Sin, and then The Brave, and then I'm coming across this movie, there's a clear graduation of the skill level that we've seen from what I've seen from those earlier films to where you are with it now. So clearly you've been very consistent with your work, where you've gotten a lot better, but not just as director, but I think as an overall storyteller, where you can fine tune certain details. That I noticed that when I was watching the channel and went back to watch Sinners and Saints, and I love Sinners and Saints. So don't get me wrong, when I'm making that comparison, I don't want you to think that like this was better. So what I'm noticing though is that it's clearly obvious that the things that you probably thought worked at the time is not going to work for you moving forward, with certain traits you probably carry about yourself with your films that are consistent, which is the shootout sequences and the internal struggles that the characters are going through, but having these outward extraordinary situations that they're either forced into rather, and then they have to find a way to get themselves out of it. Not a common trait it's a common trait for a lot of storytellers to deal with here, but for you specifically, the reason I'm pointing it out here is because I've noticed with your stories is that it's a singular person going through a problem, but there's a group of people that helps him through the problem, if you will. Right. So what I'm curious with you though is because I always wondered for yourself, specifically for you, if with the journeys you have gone through in your career, the highs and the lows, you've been pretty consistent with your work, but I'm not sure if at any point, if through the hardships you're dealt with here, that if you have ever felt like, is this even worth what I'm going through right now? Because, I know I'm getting better, but the struggles are very, very difficult for me to go through right now. But yet, when you make a movie like The Channel, I always figured that somewhere in your head, you realize that this is all worth everything I've gone through, because I was able to tell the story that I want to tell with my vision, of course, with the proper opinions that would help me tell the story in the most effective way. So that way I can have a better understanding of what people's perspective are to get a really good grasp of things here. But I'm just curious about if at any point you looked at yourself and thought, is this even worth it? Because it's a hard road. And I respect a lot of people, like the guys like yourself, Jesse, Louis Manuel.
You're gonna say Jesse Ventura. I love Jesse. I'm a fan of his work. Right. And I know he and I both, I can't think of an artist out there who hasn't. My first short film, I remember we were about to get kicked out of our location. I remember going in the back room, finding a hiding place, going, it's too hard to myself. So yeah, I mean, of course. And then there's been downtime or projects that didn't work out the way I wanted them to work out that were super painful. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, when you feel like this is all you were meant to do, and you're still providing for your family, and you're getting satisfied as an artist and a storyteller, I don't really see there's any other option. And I do feel like this is a business of endurance.
Yeah.
And I think, like you mentioned, Sinners and Saints, Daylight Saving, I love those two movies. Those are two other films I had huge creative influence in. I had the most in the channel, but my point is that there's also a level of the team. You'll see a lot of the same people in my films.
Yeah.
Behind the camera, in front of the camera, and the whole team, we're all growing. We're all getting better. We're all getting the experience of the previous work. And so I think it's just naturally that we progress and get to enjoy the benefits of history, right?
Yeah. Well, so I guess to kind of more close this off here, I just want to give you your props on something, because I've said it before, I'm a big fan of your work here, but if it wasn't for the fact that, you know, I've come across really the catalyst of all this here, I'm going way back here, is with Scott Adkins, because once I got into Scott, who you've worked with before as well too.
Right, Scott's awesome.
Yeah, and I think I'm understanding too, there might be an upcoming project you guys will be working together, from what I saw on IMDb.
We're always trying to make something happen. Yeah, so we have something in the works, but it's, you know.
Okay, well, so what I'm saying is that there, you know, with my introduction with Scott, like everybody else who've come across his work through the Boyka films, but the point is that was more or less the rabbit hole that got me into a lot of other filmmakers, because usually, especially at that time, I was always into the bigger guys, like the larger, the well-known filmmakers.
Of course, me too. Yeah.
Right. So, but once I got into Scott's work and saw who else has he worked with here, and then became a friend of the work, it led me to guys like yourself, Jesse, and the various other people that I've now become major fans of, because of what you guys have been able to do in a smaller scale, but tell epic stories with the restraints that you guys have here, but never let go of the pedal, if you will, moving forward. I got to give you props on that. And I think that from what I've seen here in the channel so far, which I believe is your best work, I can only imagine that with the next opportunities you have coming down the pipeline, that it's just going to keep getting better and better. And I hope it gives you more of a chance to try something bigger and better that will make you exciting for yourself, for someone like myself who's a fan of your work, to see what else you can do at that next level, if you will. So for me, this is me giving your props, because I always look forward to your work. I cannot wait to see what else you have coming down the pipeline here. So I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to say in closing to more or less tell people what to be expecting, not only for the channel, but anything else that you can announce here that people can be to look out for to help promote with anything else you have coming down the pipeline.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. I really do. I think the thing I want people to walk away from here is they're going to want to watch this movie. Yeah. They're going to want to check it out. It's going to be worth their time, and they're going to be glad they did. And I think as far as the future, we got all kinds of exciting stuff coming up, some stuff very soon. So I just want really to thank you to helping us get the word out for the little movie that could, because this is our baby.
Yeah. Well, I'll be happy to help out in any way that I can, because I do believe in your work, and I think you're one of the best out there to do it here. So this is me saying thank you for making some awesome work that I can truly support here. But otherwise, for the cameras here, I'm going to say thank you for your time, and until next time, cheers to you.
All right, look forward to it. Thank you, bro.